And now, direct from Las Vegas, it's Football Forecast Weekly, starring Dennis Tobler, with special guest Buzz Daly, featuring reports from Antigua, Curacao, and Costa Rica. And now, the hottest football show on the air, Football Forecast Weekly.
Today's special guest star is Rod Myers. And now our host, Dennis Tobler.
Thank you very much, Carrie. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Football Forecast Weekly. This year, we have a tremendous show on tap for you, and we have some great innovations for the first time, like being live on the internet on KEEN TV, our flagship station here in Las Vegas. Plus, we have the best guests in the business. And I'm talking about some real experts, people. I'm not talking about these loudmouth touts. I'm talking about guys that know what's going on onshore and offshore. And while we're speaking of guests, it's time to introduce my co-host, who will be here every week helping me analyze the top college and pro football games. And that co-host is Rod Myers. Rod, welcome to the show. It's a great pleasure to have you on this year.
Pleasure to be back again, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's waste no time. Let's get right into the action. This week's matchup features two big college games. We're going to have an analysis on both of them for you. The first game is Ohio State at Arizona. Ohio State's coming off a big win over Fresno State last week. Actually, that was a no-brainer. I had that one. I think most everybody else did, too. Arizona came away with a road win at Utah, a game that was a little funny because it didn't feature as much scoring as the bookmakers nor the general public thought in that game. Nonetheless, the Wildcats come out on top 17-3 in that matchup. It's a tough game here because Ohio State goes on the road. They're laying 6 points against the vaunted Arizona defense. Rod, take it away. Tell me what you think this one's outcome will be.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, like you said, last week, Ohio State 43-10 win over Fresno State seemed meaningless to the public. Ohio State have a very well-balanced offense, 223 yards on the ground, 166 through the air. However, in a game that did surprise the bookmakers as far as scoring goes, Arizona wins on the road at Utah. It is 17-3. However, defensively, the Wildcats were a tremendous team against the rush. Only 60 yards against them on the ground. However, if Ohio State decides to open up their passing attack, this is the downfall for Arizona. They gave up 310 yards through the air to Utah Utes last week, and I just don't think that they can afford to do this again. However, if Ohio State plays conservative football against the Pac-10 and the Big Ten, like it normally happens in the Rose Bowl, you're going to see a tremendous battle of offensive and defensive players. The key to this game here is exactly how well can Arizona stop the Ohio State rushing attack. If they perform like this week, like they did last week, this could be a very low-scoring game. However, I think Ohio State, too talented, too big, too speedy, lay the 6 on the road.
Thanks, Rod. I tend to agree with you in this matchup. It seems to me like Ohio State is just too big, too strong. And I do believe their running game will work, which will make their passing game work even better. Even though Utah threw for all those yards last week, Arizona kept them out of the end zone. However, they won't be able to do that this week because if Ohio State gets close enough, they can pound the ball right down their throats with their running attack. It's simply more speed, more power, more talent on Ohio State's side of the ball. Let's go with the Buckeyes here. It's a unanimous decision. Lay the 6 and take Ohio State. Our next matchup this week is the big game, and we will always bring you the big action. I want to remind all the viewers out there that we're going to give you our insights and our information. We want you to make the final decision. A lot of times Rod and I will agree, sometimes we will disagree. But it's up to you to make the final choice here. You have no loudmouth touts arguing with each other over which side to play. We give you the information, and you make your decision on the game. The next matchup this week is the biggest matchup on the board, and that's number 1, Nebraska, at number 23, Notre Dame. Both teams come off big wins last week. Nebraska was expected, beating San Jose State at will, whatever they wanted to put on the board. The other side, Notre Dame, Bob Davies' team came up with one of the biggest wins of his career in this matchup because they beat Texas A&M. Now, that was a big win because they had a down season last year, and to get off the snide with a win at home is a big plus for Notre Dame football. This week, story may be different. They're up against the #1 team in the land. The Cornhuskers are 13-point road favorites. Let's go to our expert analyst, Rod Myers. Rod, how do you see this one?
Well, don't let the numbers fool you. Last week, Notre Dame comes off 24-10 over Texas A&M, who was at that time currently ranked number 25 in the country. They did allow 90 yards rushing, 133 through the air as far as Notre Dame is concerned. Folks, don't let the numbers fool you from last week's game. Although Notre Dame won 24-10 over Texas A&M, they allowed 90 yards on the ground defensively, 165 through the air. However, against a high-powered offense like Nebraska, who rolls up 505 yards on the ground against the San Jose State Spartans, 90 through the air, this is going to be a much different contest for Notre Dame. Nebraska is a much more powerful team, much more speedier, and a much more bigger offensive line. Defensively, Nebraska wasn't really challenged. However, they were challenged early in the game by San Jose, who did have 3 touchdowns called back. I feel the key to this contest will be the ground attack of Nebraska against the defensive attack of Notre Dame. The Irish, Alex Battle, young kid from Shreveport, Louisiana, does a great job leading the Irish, a very surprising player this week. They get the upset over Texas A&M. I think this week there are little high hopes for an upset, fall by the wayside. Nebraska rolls big time in this contest. I would take Nebraska laying 13.
Well, ditto. That's all I can say on this one. I mean, Rod, he pretty well tapped what the story is in this matchup. And the story is speed, #1, class and talent, #2. Notre Dame beat a very slow Texas A&M team who is without the talent that they've had in recent years, and they needed a big home win. Notre Dame is just simply too slow. When you watch this matchup, you're going to see the offensive linemen, the defensive linemen of Nebraska are going to beat them to the punch all the way through. The quarterback for Nebraska runs the option very well, and you can bet last week against San Jose State they showed absolutely nothing. You understand what I mean? They handed the ball off and they ran the ball. This week you can look for Nebraska flim-flam. You can look for a greater passing attack out of Eric Crouch. You're going to see Nebraska roll in this one. There's a hidden agenda here. For years in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when Notre Dame was a major power in the country, Nebraska, Oklahoma, some of the other top teams in the country couldn't get a matchup against Notre Dame. Notre Dame really made their name playing the weak sisters in the country because they were an independent team and they were able to get by doing so. Now the story has changed and Notre Dame's going to be playing the big boys. And I think Nebraska has waited some 15 or 20 years to have this crack. Look for them to be sky high, a lot of Cornhusker fans in Notre Dame Stadium, and don't be surprised if Nebraska really rolls here. Could be 40-14, something like that, the final score. The 13 points are not enough. Take Nebraska. That's 2 consensus plays in a row. Now I want you to stay with us. We're going to be right back after this message with our look at the pro games this week, so stick around.
Our motto epitomizes what we stand for at Dune Sports. We're bigger because we see the big picture. With over 100 years combined experience, Dunes is your best bet. You can find our lines on the Don Best feed, the premier line service. We're better with better customer service, better wagering options, better marketing, and better technology. Try our live line feed to your web cell phones. The newest in cutting-edge technology. Live lines, live scores, all to your cell phone. We're faster with 7-day-a-week payouts, same-day Western Union, and easy wagering options, plus technical assistance unequaled in the industry. We have more wagering options. Wager online, over the phone, and soon directly over your web cell phone, plus customer service second to none. Call now, Dune Sports, 1-877-600-9116. Set up your account today. Call now and get in the game.
Hi there, sports fans. ACK is back to remind you that the explosion of cyberspace sports has changed the way America experiences sports. That's why you'll be getting 21st century technology right here at Football Forecast. Hey, I can remember when a website was that thing in the upper corner of my bedroom. But now you can keep up with the latest football forecast at our website, www.footballforecast.com. So get your free picks off our internet. More later when ACK is back.
Welcome back, everyone. And now it's the time that we're going to take a look at some of the top pro games, the NFL action for this week's card. We've got 3 top matchups for you. We're going to break them down and give you the winners of these matchups. First up, we're going to take a look at the Chiefs-Titans matchup. Of course, Tennessee comes off a rough loss at Buffalo. Not unexpected on my part, considering the situation that occurred last year with the miracle play at Tennessee, putting Tennessee in the Super Bowl and sending Buffalo home. The Bills come up with a big home win. It was a big win on the Bills' behalf, and it could have been a little letdown for Tennessee. Tennessee did play very well in this matchup, and they're 7.5-point favorites over the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs on the other side of the coin were abysmal, and they looked terrible. And they were also playing in Derek Thomas's memory in the last game. I have no clue what's going on in Kansas City. Tennessee, 7.5-point favorite. Rod, take it away.
Well, this is a classic matchup of the preseason when Tennessee did win the preseason matchup 14-10. However, Tennessee is coming off a huge letdown. This was a great revenge factor for Buffalo and a great win 16-13 on Sunday Night Football for opening week. Couldn't have asked for a better matchup to open up your Sunday night schedule. Kansas City falls a huge loss at home to the Indianapolis Colts, 27-14. However, Kansas City, both offenses with Kansas City and Tennessee did struggle quite a bit. Both teams coming off sluggish performances in the opening weekend. Kansas City faltering very bad at home against Indianapolis, 27-14. However, they go 274 yards total offense. Tennessee on the road at Buffalo, only 162 yards total offense. Folks, you're not going to see that this week. Tennessee head coach Jeff Fisher. This young man is a motivated coach. He can get this team up. He can get this team going. Look for Steve McNair, Eddie George, the rest of the Titan offense to explode. Kansas City goes into Tennessee as a rematch. Like I said, 14-10 loss in the preseason. They're going to remember this. They both, too, know they need to perform a lot better than they did in last week's loss to Indianapolis. However, Tennessee at home, they love the opening crowd. You can expect 80,000 plus at the stadium. Jeff Fisher, a total turnaround for the Titans. I love Tennessee to rebound from a poor performance on last week's loss to Buffalo. I think this is all Tennessee's game to lose.
Well, what do you know, folks? We're 3-3 when it comes to agreement on the game. I'm going to have to take Tennessee and lay the 7.5 points in this matchup. Kansas City looked horrible, playing with the most emotion that you can imagine last week at home against a mediocre team. Give me a break. They're terrible. Gunther Cunningham needs to be an assistant somewhere, not a head coach. Their quarterback, Elvis Grbac, just can't get it done. I don't care what he tries to do. He's not good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. The fact of the matter is Kansas City has fallen on hard times. The rest of the division has made headway while Kansas City has traded away their stars. Their ownership is lousy in Kansas City, and they're going up against one of the best franchises in the league. What this Jeff Fisher has done over the years is incredible, how he's brought the Titans back. I'm going to take Tennessee here. Last week they were laid up against the worst situation in the world. This week it's reversed. They're at home with their home crowd against a very weak Kansas City team. Take Tennessee and lay the 7.5 in this one. All right, our next matchup is the Dolphins, Miami, on the road to play Minnesota. Last week, of course, Miami came off a big win beating Seattle. Minnesota, they eked out a win over Chicago, who's much improved. But Minnesota, they showed a little bit of ilk in this one, coming back a couple of times when the pressure was on. Culpepper, their new quarterback there, does show some flashes of brilliance, but who knows what's going to happen as the future heads a different direction. You know, most of these quarterbacks in the NFL, especially the young quarterbacks from weak schools or small schools, have a tough time when it's all said and done. It remains to be seen whether he's going to be able to cut the mustard as the year goes on. In this matchup, however, the Vikings are 3.5-point favorites. Now, the line opened here in Las Vegas at Minnesota 4.5, and it's been bet down to 3.5, mostly on the strength of the win the Dolphins had last week over Seattle. The line is 3.5 on this one, Rod. What do you think will be the outcome here?
Well, I think this is going to be a classic matchup here. You really have to respect Dante Culpepper and what he has done with Minnesota. 13 of 23 last week passing, 1 interception, 186 yards through the air. They have 188 yards on the ground. So Minnesota, surprisingly, not dominating one side of where they have a dominant passing game or a dominant rushing team. This is the first time I can remember in many games in many years they've had a balanced offensive attack. Was a very surprising performance last week by Minnesota was how well balanced their offense was. 186 yards on the ground, 188 through the air. Miami comes in off a great win. Fielder leading the quarterbacking duties for Miami, taking over for Dan Marino and beating out Damon Huard in the offseason. He comes in 15 of 24, 127 yards through the air. They get the easy 23-0 shutout win over Seattle in last year's playoff matchup, in which Miami also won that game 9-6. However, coming on the road, Miami does not fare too well on artificial turf. Minnesota getting a very good win and a very much needed win with Dante Culpepper at the helm over the Chicago Bears 30-27. However, I think that with Minnesota leading, laying 3.5 points, Miami, this is a steal. Take the Dolphins plus 3.5. Why? The Dolphins defense is going to pressure Dante Culpepper. He's going to see a different reading than what he did with Chicago. This is a team with the Dolphins, and their defense is going to be a completely different setup than what Culpepper is used to. This probably a high-scoring game. I figure probably about 45, 46 points between the two, but I like Miami and the points in this one.
Well, finally, we're going to have a different selection on the game because I'm going to go with the Vikings in this spot, and it's kind of a unique scenario here. I agree with what Rod says about the way this game's going to lay out. It's going to be high-scoring and all, but I just think that Minnesota is going to run rampant over that Miami defense. Now, Seattle, they really have no one. They traded away Almon Green. They have no running attack. Kitna is no quarterback, and I tell you what, Holmgren's in for a long year up there. But Miami did come away with a big win. I think they may be too satisfied going into this matchup. Minnesota has offensive talent galore. They hid Robert Smith last week. He rushed for 100 and some yards on very few carries, and it was like an afterthought. They let Dante Culpepper get into the game, which he did. He may get in the game again this week. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to take Minnesota minus 3.5 in this one. Our first disagreement, Rod, but who knows? It's a tough game and a tough call here. Maybe the total is the play. We both agree on that.
Exactly.
All right, let's go on to our final matchup in the NFL this week. Big matchup, actually. The Jacksonville Jaguars are heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens opened as 1-point favorites here in Las Vegas, and I think Rod and I both agree it's a surprising move to have the line move up to -3 on Baltimore in this situation. Jacksonville is one of the top teams in the league. They seem to be healthy again. Last week, they just toyed with the Cleveland franchise. They could have named the score in that matchup. So this week, they are on the road, and they play Baltimore. Baltimore's a 3-point favorite in this one. Tell me, Rod, is Baltimore getting too much respect here or what?
Well, I mean, you have to give them respect because they did come off the 16-0 win over Pittsburgh. However, I feel that this is a game that Jacksonville needs, and they need it bad. Why? They struggled early, and they struggled often against a Cleveland team. Now, it's good that Cleveland didn't lose 43-0 like they did opening season of last year. But for the Jacksonville Jaguars to be laying 10.5 and only win 27-7 lets me know one thing. Jacksonville was not up for this game, and the Jaguars need to get pumped to face the Ravens. The Ravens have been a much talked about team in the offseason. They've done a lot of great advertising in the D.C. area, getting the fans. They've got the fan support. Modell's actually gotten the team a little bit more respectable now. What I didn't see last week, what I did see last week with Jacksonville, and what I didn't like about the Jags is they always have a very much more passing game than they have in usual. Brunell, always a sweet passer, 279 yards last week through the air, 119 on the ground. However, Baltimore throws the ball 196 yards through the air, 140 on the ground. They too have a seemingly balanced attack. The Ravens, if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to stop the Jacksonville passing game. There's no doubt about it. Brunell is the most dangerous quarterback when he is flushed out of the pocket. If the Ravens can sack Brunell 2 or 3 times in this game, the Ravens have a chance. However, Jacksonville is a much more better laid franchise. I think the Ravens are playing on hype. I think they're playing more on hype than they are on pure talent. Jacksonville opens the season with a win. They will go off 2-0. I like Jacksonville plus the 3, I think the public is betting in the wrong direction here.
Well, I agree with you on this one also. I think that Jacksonville is the much better franchise. Jacksonville has a much better quarterback. And here again last week, Jacksonville showed nothing in their game against Cleveland. And by nothing, I mean they absolutely played the basic game because they're saving it. On the road this week against Baltimore, Tony Banks leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to quarterback. I've followed his career since Michigan State. I haven't seen the brilliance that they seem to be hyping this guy to have. So I'm going to take Jacksonville in this one too. So that makes us 4 out of 5 consensus plays this week. I'm going to take it and throw it back to Carrie in the studio. Carrie, what's next up?
Next up is Buzz Daly. And then our pick of the week. You don't want to miss that.
International Island Sportsbook is the one and only sportsbook offshore that offers the unheard-of promotion of 7 cents juice all day, every day. Critics say, how can you stay in business with 7 cents juice every day? Well, the answer is simple. They cut their profits and pass them on to their valuable customers. So not only are they offering 7 cents juice all day, every day, they also give away sign-up bonuses, sports pagers, free plays, and much more. II Sportsbook offers wagering both over the phone and on the internet, with opening deposits as low as $200 and minimum wagers as low as $10 on the net. In the near future, II Sportsbook will be proudly announcing the expansion on the internet with their new casino, featuring blackjack, roulette, poker, and much more. To check out International Island Sportsbook, just give them a call at 1-800-809-0948 or click on the web at www.iisportsbook.com. Rio International is a legally operating offshore sportsbook located in the beautiful country of Costa Rica. Rio International has been operating for the past 7 years and proudly displays their lines on the world-famous Don Best screen. Open a gold or platinum account today and receive an abundance of extras offered, such as free sports pagers, 1 free monthly payout, free monthly plays, plus sign-up bonuses for you and your friends. Rio International takes phone action, and they also have a user-friendly internet wagering site. And just listen to these extras. Ties win on teasers. Free half point on Friday wagers. A free half point when playing 10 games or more. So get in the game. You can call now at 1-877-RIO-BETS or check us out on the web at www.betrio.com.
SportsBet.com presents Sports Scene with Buzz Daly, publisher of Player's Choice, the nation's leading gaming journal, appearing each week exclusively right here on Football Forecast Weekly.
Hey, sports bettors. I know a lot of you guys enjoy coming to Vegas during the football season, but this might be the last year that you can take advantage of what was or what is Nevada's once exclusive franchise, legalized betting on sports at a licensed sports book. Nowhere else in the U.S. can you do this, and that is a franchise that Nevada has not protected and not enhanced during the years that they've had it. Now there's a move afoot that would wipe out sports betting in the books, as the special interest groups like the NCAA, the Bible Thumpers, and of course the Boys from Organized Sports want to put an end to this nonsense of people coming to Las Vegas or Nevada and betting on sports. Right now, legislation is being prepared that would ban betting on college sports in Nevada. And we're talking college football, we're talking bowl games, we're talking March Madness. That's a pretty big chunk of the action. Now, the rationale behind this legislation, which is the brainchild of Senator John McCain, a Republican out of Arizona, is that our poor college youth of America are being corrupted by legalized sports betting in Nevada, and by ending it there, that it will put an end to all the betting on the campuses. Now, that's pretty stupid, but it's political fodder that passes, and it passes muster in Washington. Now, the idea is that turning on the sports books here in Vegas, we can save our children, if you want to consider college kids children, a fate worse than death, and we don't want to see them getting hooked on betting on sports, and we'll just do away with betting on sports here in Vegas. Now, the college coaches have teamed up with the NCAA to back this plan. I'm talking coaches like Joe Paterno and Dean Smith out of North Carolina. So there's some American icons that are helping the politicians get this plan passed. And although the politicians in Nevada have successfully blocked it this year, they're not going to be able to do it for an entire season next year. And at the next session of Congress, this bill is a slam dunk to pass. And that, of course, will spell the beginning and the end for sports betting in Las Vegas as we know it, because it's already considered a marginal activity, and by that I mean the bean counters in the casinos look at what goes on in the sports books, and the volume and the profit that they make is pretty small. They don't really consider it a big deal. When you take away the college side of the action, now you're reducing volume dramatically, and what's going to happen is we're going to wind up having betting going on in kiosks that are open from 3 to 7 p.m. Now, adding insult to injury, the Nevada State Gaming Control Board is coming up with another little plan that'll just put another nail in the coffin of betting on sports, mainly for residents. If you live in Nevada, you have the ability to make a telephone wager with a number of the books that have phone betting. Well, because a couple of agents were able to hack into the lines and make some phone bets from out of state, they are now going to reduce the limit that you can bet on these games to about, well, we've heard $300 mentioned. Now, of course, that is pretty silly. All right, let's go back to our man Dennis in the studio.
Now it's time for the pick of the week.
This week, Rod and I's consensus play is Nebraska -13 over Notre Dame. We told you earlier that the speed and talent of the Cornhuskers will win out in the end here. Let's go with Nebraska. And don't forget to be with us again next week, right here at this very same time and on these very same stations. Until then, good luck.
Rio International is a legally operating offshore sports book located in the beautiful country of Costa Rica. Rio International has been operating for the past 7 years and proudly displays their lines on the world-famous Don Best screen. Open a gold or platinum account today and receive an abundance of extras offered, such as free sports pagers, 1 free monthly payout, free monthly plays, plus sign-up bonuses for you and your friends. Rio International takes phone action, and they also have a user-friendly internet wagering site. And just listen to these extras. Ties win on teasers. Free half point on Friday wagers. A free half point when playing 10 games or more. So get in the game. You can call now at 1-877-RIO-BETS or check us out on the web at www.betrio.com. Our motto epitomizes what we stand for at Dune Sports. We're bigger because we see the big picture. With over 100 years combined experience, Dunes is your best bet. You can find our lines on the Don Best feed, the premier line service. We're better with better customer service, better wagering options, better marketing, and better technology. Try our live line feed to your web cell phones. The newest in cutting-edge technology. Live lines, live scores, all to your cell phone. We're faster with 7-day-a-week payouts, same-day Western Union, and easy wagering options, plus technical assistance unequaled in the industry. We have more wagering options. Wager online, over the phone, and soon directly over your web cell phone, plus customer service second to none. Call now, Dune Sports, 1-877-600-9116. Set up your account today. Call now and get in the game.